Associate Professor Matt Payne from UWA, has just received a prestigious grant. It's called the Stan Perron Charitable Foundation 2024 Researcher Grant, and that money will help Matt improve health outcomes for the thousands of babies that are born too early every year. Matt joins me now. Hello, Professor Payne.
How's it going, Amber?
Great. Matt, your research aims to improve the health outcomes for preterm babies. Can you just explain what is meant by preterm?
Certainly. So a preterm baby is a baby that is born before full-term gestation, which is 37 weeks globally, and around about 26 to 30,000 infants are born preterm in Australia each year.
And that, you know, the earlier in the pregnancy that the baby is born, the kind of trickier things are for that baby, aren't there? Like what is, I believe I heard there was something called a grey zone. Is that, yes?
Basically, the earlier in gestation that the child's born, generally the outcomes are worse, especially for infants that are born less than 28 weeks gestation. You see marked increases in rates of things like conditions like cerebral palsy, and you just get worse developmental outcomes in the infant as well, generally.
So beyond 28 weeks, things become more and more viable as the weeks go by. Is that right?
Yes, not in Australia. Yes, we are very fortunate here that we have very good neonatal care. So our outcomes for preterm infants beyond 30 weeks are much better than they are in other undeveloped countries. But you're still basically behind the eight ball if you're born preterm regardless.
Right. So you touched on the chance of cerebral palsy in very early babies. What are some of the other health challenges that a preterm baby might face? Other major ones are respiratory conditions. Obviously, when an infant's born preterm, their lungs are not fully developed, and this can cause dramas for them later in life as well. And then, as I mentioned before, also neurodevelopmental delays and associated effects with learning in schooling years. I understand that the rate of preterm births is twice as high in First Nations communities. Do we know why this is?
We don't know entirely why that is the case. That is why we do specific research on First Nations communities as well, because they basically, the factors may be completely, there may be additional factors to those that we see in other cohorts. And they are a focus of my research at the moment.
In terms of your specific research, can you explain in layman terms what your current projects set out to do?
So we know that bacteria, which cause infections, are a major driver of preterm births, especially the ones that happen very, very early on. So the infants that have the worst outcomes, a lot of those are born too early because of, say, bacterial infections. We know that a lot of those bacterial infections originate from the reproductive tract. So the microbiome, many of your listeners may be aware of that term, has really come to light in the recent years. It's basically all the microorganisms that are present in our body. So that's what it refers to, and the gut is the main one everyone's aware of. There is a microbiome in the reproductive tract. In women, there is a distinct vaginal microbiome, and we know that these bacteria originate here, and some of those, not all of them, many of them are very beneficial bacteria, but some of them, when they're given the right specific circumstances in their environment, can make their way into the uterus, and the associated response in the woman ends up in the preterm birth.
That's extraordinary. And so do you have a sense of like the percentage of preterm births that you'll be able to prevent should you get to the bottom of this and find a solution for it?
Yeah, the general consensus is that around about 25% of all preterm births have a microbial origin. So you could say potentially, if we were able to prevent every single one, maybe 25% reduction. But of the infants that are born, those less than 28 weeks where bacteria played a primary role in that outcome, it's actually around about 80% of those cases.
Oh, wow. What extraordinary work you're doing. How will this Stan Perron Research Grant help your work?
The Stan Perron Grant will allow me to really continue my focus with my current studies on assessing whether we can utilise different vaginal bacterial markers in First Nations women to predict those most at risk of preterm birth, so we can implement preventative measures before it's too late. It'll also allow me to to get a better grasp on how these bacteria are actually causing babies to be born too early. And excitingly, it will allow me to basically push my research into what is a new frontier, which will be examining the role of the male partner. For years, we've always considered just the woman in preterm birth, but the reality is, when you're looking at the reproductive tract, if you consider the couple as one, you're much more likely to actually have a successful outcome when it comes to an intervention.
Have you looked at twins throughout the course of your research? Many twins are born preterm.
Yeah, twins aren't a focus of my research. Twin pregnancies are at a higher risk of preterm birth in their own right, and that's for different reasons.
Congratulations on the grant, Associate Professor Matt Payne from UWA. I really look forward to following up with you in a year or so to see how it's going. He's from the UWA's Medical School of Obstetrics and Gynae. Matt, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sounds like relaxing, and a great audiobook on the ABC Listen app.